सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामय सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखात् भाग् भवेत्। We pray for the happiness of one and all. May everyone be peaceful and happy at all levels of the personality. May we see that which is auspicious and divine. May there be no suffering anywhere. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Anybody has any question? So the flyer that we put, one of the quotes from The Secret of Success by Swami Ramatirtha. He talks about unselfish sacrifice. He says, the most effective and best cure for all sorts of distracting passions and temptations is work. But that would be a negative recommendation. So he says there's double benefit of genuinely putting ourselves into work. So we have all heard, empty mind is a devil's workshop. If you don't give the mind any positive distraction, it can get into any kind of negativity. Then we get into a monotonous, it just makes the mind very low. So he says best cure for all sorts of distracting passions and temptations, something which we are not supposed to do, is work. Keep yourself busy with something positive. But that's a negative recommendation. That is avoiding something harmful. The positive joy.
Sorry, sir. That means we are trying to distract our mind in work. So that is a negative.
Yeah. So if you don't give yourself a positive preoccupation, there's a good chance the mind will get tempted towards something. Either it will not do what it's supposed to do, or it will get something to a wrong desire. Temptation is a wrong desire. So work it's not knowledge, but it's a distraction. It's a positive distraction.
Yeah.
But that's a negative recommendation. But at least, particularly children, if you don't keep them busy with something positive, sports, painting, music, they will go into something, will play with the phone or something negative. So it's better they have so much of energy, they need to be directed to something positive. Same thing for adults. If we don't have something higher pursuit in life, the mind becomes worldly. But that's a negative recommendation. The positive joy that accompanies faithful work is a spark of salvation, unconscious self-realization. It keeps you pure, untainted, one with divinity. This happiness is the highest and surest reward of work. So when we really do the perfect type of action, see, it's not what we do in life that matters. What is the attitude behind the action? That's what matters. So the lowest type of action, the lowest is inaction. Inaction, the lowest type of action is acting with some selfish motive. What can I get out of this action? Much better than that, what the Bhagavad Gita says is work for the welfare of others. So then we act with the intention of, can I be of some service to others? Acting in a spirit of service and sacrifice. This is action with unselfish motives. It will give a joy, but it's not going to give us what he says, unconscious self-realization. See, the summary of the entire philosophy or what we teach for those who are new to the class. It is difficult to find happiness within oneself, but impossible to find it anywhere else. The happiness that we find anywhere else, it comes and goes. It has a beginning and an end. It's finite. It's relative. But the bliss of the self within is absolute. It is not dependent on what we are going through in life. It is something permanent, something in our control, and it leads to that absolute, eternal, infinite bliss within. Now, the starting point of that is to find happiness in work. So, work is extremely useful. Which type of work? Not work with selfish motive. Much better than that is working with unselfish motive. It is leading towards the bliss within, but not really. There are many people who are unselfish, but then there is that ego. I am helping others. Now, the highest type of work, what here Swami Ramatita says, faithful work. Faithful work is selfless work, where I am the doer attitude is absent. I am just an instrument in the hands of the divine. I don't know why the divine has given me whatever I have. This is applicable to everybody. I am teaching Vedanta. I don't know why am I playing this role, but this is my talent. Somebody is a software engineer, that is his talent. Somebody is a finance expert, that's his talent. So whatever your talent is, you just express it exactly like nature. Sun shines, clouds give rain, the atmosphere has oxygen. There is no I am helping others, you just express your nature. And if we add to that, remembering the divine, as we keep doing, the whole idea is to forget yourself. If you're able to forget yourself, you experience that unconscious self-realization. So it's better to give examples of somebody who's at his peak of his action, like a classical musician or any sportsman. Imagine a Djokovic or a Federer in his peak of his game. They have already played for 2-3 hours. Now, the thought I am playing is not there. I have to win also is not there. They're just playing the game. They are just anybody. It's need not necessary that we have to have a great talent. Come, please join. Don't worry, come. It's not necessary that we have to have a great talent. Whatever be your talent, if we use that talent as this is the talent, I am an instrument in the hands of divinity, just do what you are expected to do with no thought of the ego. As we continue such kind of an activity, there is this unconscious self-realization. True bliss is within, not outside. Where is the positive joy? Where we really enjoy what you're doing. Work well accomplished is the joy of life. So it's much better to be in activity than see, in other words, inactivity can lead to a lot of boredom, can lead to lot of monotonous. It can make a person very dejected. Only time inactivity is helpful is when you already have no desires. Then you are free wherever you are. But as long as we have desires, the mind has desires, and we don't act, it pulls you into tamas. So this idea that, oh, I'll have a lot of money and I'll stop working. After a while, it becomes a very, very boring life. So that's why we said real happiness within has to be found by eradication of desires. And to eradicate desires, we have to act in the right mode. Start with unselfish activity, which is just changing the attitude. Can I be of some service to others? And then get into the selfless action. Just doing what we are supposed to do as an instrument of the divine. No ego, no thinking of benefiting others. Anyway, that action will benefit others. Cloud doesn't think that I have to give rain. River doesn't think that I have to give water. Trees doesn't think that I have to give flowers or fruits. It just happens. So that's you are at your optimum best, but there is no thought also that I am doing something. There is a statement made, you are the greatest worker when you consider yourself no worker, meaning that I am the doer thought is not there. You're just doing what you're supposed to do. Any questions? Otherwise, So, Swami Ramatita was an extraordinary self-realized person. Of course, we cannot say for sure, but his writings are so profound, so deep. Many masters have spoken about him. Though he's relatively unknown, he was a contemporary of Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda died in 1930, at the age of 39 in 1902. Swami Ramatirtha died in 1906 at the age of 32. And he was brilliant. His brilliance will come out in the parables. So my Guru Swami Parthasarathi, around 1970s, he accidentally came upon an article. And that article was probably explaining what is Maya. And when he read that, he had not come across such kind of wisdom even in the Gita or the Upanishad. It was Maya explained in a very, very unique way, a very typical Swami Ramatirtha way. So then he found out the Ramatirtha Pratishthan. They have an office in Delhi, they have an office in Lucknow. And he got the books, and we study a lot, we quote a lot of his lectures and quotations. So there is a compilation of book called The Parables of Swami Ramatirtha. So on Wednesdays, we just take up parables at random. Random because same topic, after a while, it becomes a little heavy. So we leave it to Swami Ramatirtha only, where he will take us. We do 41. Let me just see. Should I put it on the board?
No, sir.
You listen to me. "49. We will start. Okay, 49 to 46. The king and the quasi. Once upon a time, a quasi, a governor, happened to come to a certain emperor under the Mohammedan rule. The emperor, who honored the Qazi so much because of his religious pretensions, and wanted to examine his capabilities. He was no scholar himself, but the following questions which he was going to put to Quasi were suggested to him by somebody else who wanted to get the governorship. The Quasi came before the emperor and asked, "Where does God sit? In which direction does God keep his face? What does he do?" The king told him if he could answer the question to king's satisfaction, he would be promoted. The Quasi thought that the questions coming from the king must be very difficult. He knew how to humor and flatter the king by praising him, and then asked him for an interval of 8 days to answer these questions. For 8 days, the Quasi went on thinking and thinking, but could come to no conclusion. So the questions that were put to this person, Quasi, was, where does God sit? In which direction does God keep his face? What does he do? But Quasi was not able to answer. How could he answer to the king's satisfaction? Finally, the 8th day came, but the answers to the questions did not come to Quasi. He then pretended to be sick in order to gain time. The Quasi's servant, Paji, so he had a servant, Paji, approached him and wanted to know what the matter was. No, koi baat nahi, Ajay. He said, "Off with you, don't bother me, I am about to die." The servant said, "Please let me know."
ये मैं आपके लिए मैं तो कुछ नहीं लाई थी.
Thank you. "Please let me know what the matter is. I will die rather than you should be subjected to any pain." The difficulty was then explained to him. This servant occupied a very lowly position, one that was not considered at all respectful, that of slacking lime or mortar. So he was doing some construction job, this servant. But in reality, he was a pupil of Quasi and a learned man. The servant was a wise person. He knew the answers to the questions, and he said he would go and answer them. And the Quasi should write on a piece of paper ordering him to go. And if his answers were not to the satisfaction of the king, he would die and not his master. So the king had said, whoever would answer the question, there were 3 questions asked. In which direction does God sit? in which direction does God's face look, and what does he do? So, and if he did not answer the question, he would be put to death. The Quasi hesitated to do this, but just at this moment, a messenger of the king approached him, and he trembled and trembled. So he told the servant to go. He put on his best clothes, which consisted of mere rags. He was a Vedantic brother. Vedantic brother means he was wise and detached, and it's almost like a perfect human being. In India, the kings always go to Swamis and learn a great deal of wisdom and knowledge. This servant Paji fearlessly approached the king and said, "Sir, what do you want? What do you wish to ask?" The king said, "Could you answer the questions given to your master?" The Paji said, "I will answer them. But you know, he who answers them is a teacher, he who asks them is a pupil. We expect you to be a true Mohammedan and conform to the laws of the sacred scriptures. According to the law, I must have the seat of honor, and you must sit lower than myself." So he asked the king to exchange places. So the king gave him some beautiful clothes to put on, and he sat on the king's throne. King sat down on the steps, but the king said, "There is one more thing. If your answers are not satisfactory to me, I will kill you." Sania, be careful. The Paji said,
आप टी तो ले लेते
नहीं, अभी online है, बाद में बात. The Paji said, "Of course, that was understood. So there are people online also." No. Wait up. Now the first question which was put was, where does God sit? If he answered it literally, the king would not have understood it. So he said, "Bring a cow." A cow was brought. He said, "Does the cow have any milk?" The king said, "Yes, of course." "Where does the milk sit?" "In the udder maybe stomach only," answered the king. "That is wrong," said the Paji. "The milk pervades the whole cow. Let the cow go." Then some milk was brought. "Where is the butter?" "Is the butter present in the milk?" They said, "Yes." They said, "It is." "But where is it?" said the Paji. "Let me know." They could not tell. Then he said, "If you cannot tell where the butter sits, still you have to believe it is there. In fact, butter is everywhere." Where is the butter in the milk? It's everywhere in the milk. Yeah. Similarly, God is everywhere throughout the whole universe. Just as butter is everywhere present in the milk, and milk is everywhere present in the cow. In order to get the milk, you have to milk the cow. So in order to get God, you have to milk your own heart. Basically, purify the heart. As long as we are selfish and egoistic and have worldly tendencies, we miss the divine self. The Paji said, "Are you answered, O king?" The king said, "Yes, that is right." Now all these people who said God was living in the 7th or 8th heaven fell in the estimation of the king. They were nothing to him. Their position was not right. Just 1 second. Huh? Right.
Can I bring some coffee, please?
Cold coffee.
Cold coffee with sugar?
Without sugar.
Without sugar? So 1 spoon sugar.
Okay, less sugar.
मैं ला रही हूँ. आप पहले लोग ना सुनो तो ना ये दो.
No.
Sandwich. Give me sandwich here.
No. Right. Then came the next question. In which direction does God look? To the east, west, north, or south? This was also very peculiar. But these people looked upon God as a personality. He said, "All right, bring light." A candle was brought and lit. He showed them the candle did not face north, south, east, or west, but was everywhere equal. The king was satisfied. Similarly, God is the candle in your heart which faces in all directions. So which way does God look? You put a candle. Candle looks all directions. Similarly, God looks in all directions. Now came the question, what does God do? He said, "All right," and told the king to go and bring the Quasi. When his master came, he was astonished to find the servant seated on the king's throne And he told the Quasi to sit at the place where the Paji was to occupy, and the king to sit in the Quasi's place, and he himself on the king's throne. This, he said, is the way God does constantly keep things moving, changing Paji into king, king into Quasi, and Quasi into Paji. So, which way God looks, he brought a candle. Which direction does God look? In all directions. Similarly, God is in all directions. And so, this is what is being continually done in the world. One family rising in ascendancy, then becoming unknown, another taking its place. For a time, one is highly honored, then another takes his place, and so on, day after day, year after year. And so on in this world, change is going on all the time. From that day, Paji was made a Quasi. So the 3 points he gave. Which direction God sits? Where is God? God is everywhere. In which direction God sits? Very beautiful example. Sit like a candle. Candle looks in all directions. Similarly, God looks in all directions. And thirdly, what does he do? So he's constantly, the world is in a constant flux of change. At one point, we're a teacher, then a student, and the student becomes a teacher. Everything is in a constant flux of change. So basically, the divine is the enlivening principle because of which everything is happening. Okay, we'll take up another story. Let's see, we'll take up 46 maybe. You okay, Sanya? Any questions?
No, sir. Lots in private.
What's not in?
Have you been private? No, I mean after the online class.
Sure. We'll do offline class.
It's a secret of happiness to the
6 baje.
6 baje.
Effect of Maya or ignorance. We'll see what is this. In Milton's life, there is a very beautiful story told about a lady who was his wife. This Milton must be John Milton, but let's see. In her dream, she saw her husband, her lord. Her heart was leaping in her bosom for her lord, for her husband. So she was sleeping, like this might happen to you tonight. You might be sleeping and thinking of Bharat. Okay. She embraced her husband and said, "My lord, I am wholly yours." Just at that moment, she woke up and found that a dog had been sleeping in the same bed with her. So, the dog had been sleeping in the same bed with her and pressing its body to her, and the dog leaped out of the bed to the floor. In reality, it was the pressure of the dog that appeared to her in her dream to be her lord or husband. Had the dog pressed his body more and more, she would have felt a mighty Himalaya on her breast. And Vedanta says, so long as the dog of ignorance and the dog of Maya remains pressing you down, your dreams are continually changing from good to bad and from bad to good. Sometimes a husband and sometimes a mighty Himalaya presses on you. You are always like a pendulum oscillating between a tear and a smile. The world will weigh heavily upon your heart. There will be no rest for you. Vedanta says, get rid of the dog of ignorance and make yourself God Almighty. Make yourself that. Realize that and you're free. A little bit. So some of the stories are a little abstract, difficult to get the message out of it, but some are very beautiful. Hopefully we'll come across that. The truth is that there is only reality. There is only Brahman, the Supreme God, and that nature of that Brahman is absolute bliss. But this is nowhere near our experience at this moment. At this moment, we are experiencing this world and we are an individual. We identify with the body, mind, intellect, and we are looking for pleasure. We are looking for pleasure and with the body, physical pleasures. With the mind, we want emotional joy. With the intellect, we are running for respect, honor. And there is no such thing as enduring peace and happiness. There is, as he said, we fluctuate between a tear, sometimes we are crying, and a smile, sometimes we are happy. Joy, sorrow constantly fluctuates. Just as the dog was lying she felt the pressure of the dog, and the dream she dreamt of her husband. If the dog had put more pressure, she could have dreamt it was a Himalaya. So he's saying this ignorance is like a burden on us. Ignorance of not knowing ourselves. That's Maya. We have to get rid of the DOG of ignorance and go to opposite of DOG, God. The supreme reality is within, that is absolute bliss. All the suffering is because of Maya, which is ignorance. This belief that we are this personality itself is Maya. This world is like a long dream. So we need to wake up to reality. Anyway, as we go along, such stories will make more sense. Any questions? Okay. So some minutes. Let's do this 148. An inspector came to a school in India. One of the schoolmasters, pointing to a student, said he was so bright as to have learned by heart such and such a piece of literature, say Milton's Paradise Lost. He could recite any part of it. The student presented to the inspector, but he had no Vedanta in him. He assumed bashfulness and modesty. He assumed bashfulness and modesty when asked, "Do you know that piece by heart?" He said, "No, sir, I am nothing, I know nothing." So he was pretending to be falsely modest. Those words he thought were an indication of modesty, a sign of bashfulness. "No, sir, I know nothing, I did not learn it." The minister asked again, but the boy still said, "No, sir, no, sir, I do not know it." The master was put out of countenance. There was another boy who did not know the whole book by heart, but he said, "I know it. I think I shall be able to recite any passage you may desire." The inspector put him a few questions. All the questions were readily answered by the boy. The second boy declaimed passage after passage and secured the prize. No one can even estimate you at a higher value than you set upon yourself. So if you put a low value upon ourselves, nobody will respect us. But we don't have to be egoistic, but you should have the right value. So if you know something, we should have say, "I know it." If you don't know, you say, "Don't know it." But if you are going to a sort of a competition or where you have to present your best, I can't come to the class and say, "नहीं नहीं मुझे कुछ नहीं आता." Then people will say, "अरे इसको तो कुछ नहीं आता, क्यों पढ़ा रहा है?" So when you are playing a particular role, you have to use your intellect, and you say, "As you think, so you become." If you are confident, you will have confidence. As you think, so you become. If you feel dejected, you will not be dejected. You will, that will percolate in your day-to-day actions. Thank you. उधर अभी नहीं बात, लास्ट के बाद नहीं जरूर, it's okay. नहीं please, अभी नहीं, बाद में
और कवर कर वो चलेगा.
So no one can even estimate you at a higher value than you set upon yourself. Positive thoughts, positive thinking will ultimately come out as positive actions. Do not please make yourself cringing, sneaking, miserable creatures. As you think, so you will become. Think yourselves to be God, and God you are. Think yourself to be free, and free you are at this moment. So we got to be very, very careful to avoid negative thoughts which pull you down. Thoughts which raise us up, that's what we have to encourage. And that's why scriptures help. When we study the scriptures with devotion and understanding, it gives you a lot of power. Modesty carried to the extreme is unbecoming. Will launch you into misery, slavery, for as you think, so you will become. So So remember that. The boy had studied, but when the inspector asked, "What do you know?" he said, "I don't know anything." Again repeated, "Do you know anything?" "I don't know anything." So finally he did not get the prize. Whereas the boy who didn't know much, but he tried. Trying is important. In that context, his Let me just go to another one. Seven. Are you able to see the screen? I'll just reshare it. This is a nice one. Long, long ago, there lived a saint so good that the astonished angels came down from the heaven to see how a mortal could be so godly. They were the saints, and the angels came down to see him. He simply went about his daily life, diffusing virtue as the star diffuses light and the flower perfume, without even being aware of it. 2 words summed up his day: he gave and he forgave. Yet these words never fell from his lips. They were expressed in his ready smile, his kindness, his forbearance, and charity. These are all divine qualities which will actually give the mind peace, and it's only a peaceful mind which can contemplate upon the self. So he gave and forgave, always smiling, kind, forbearing, and charity. So when suffering comes, we have to endure it gracefully. The angel said to God, "O God, grant him the gift of miracles." God replied, "I consent. Ask him what he wishes." So they said to the saint, Should you like the touch of your hands to heal the sick?" "No," answered the saint. I would like rather God should do that." "Should you like to convert guilty souls and bring them back, wandering hearts, to the right path?" "No, that is the mission of angels. I pray I do not convert." So they asked him, "Do you want to touch and people will get cured?" "No," he says, "that's God's job." Then he said, "Okay, you want to convert guilty souls and make them good?" He said, "No, that is the work of angels." "Should you like to become a model of patience, attracting men by the luster of your virtues, thus glorifying God? You'll become a very, very patient person." "No," replied the saint. "If men should be attracted to me, they would be estranged from God. Guru's role is to direct people towards God, not towards him. The Lord has other means of glorifying himself." "What do you desire then?" cried the angels. "What can I wish for?" said the saint, smiling. "That God gives me his grace. With that, should I not have everything? I have everything. God's grace is there. I don't need anything." But the angels wished, "You must ask for a miracle, or one will be forced upon you." "Very well. See, if you say no, it will be given to you forcefully. Like how I'm saying no, no, and it's coming by force, right?" "Very well," said the saint, "that I may do a great deal of good without ever knowing it." What a beautiful thought, huh? I may do a great deal of good without ever knowing it. What will happen if you do good and you know it? Best is neki kar and dariya mein dal, Do good and forget it. What is the danger of doing good and knowing it? Ego, na? Sorry, Vinita ji? Ego. So ego comes from the memories of the past. Temporarily, when a person loses his memory, or even when a person gets drunk, the memory goes, the ego goes. There is already there is a happiness. But getting drunk is taking outside help. Through knowledge, because even if you remember it, understand it, it's not you. It's that person, the waker. Best is to not remember it. Only time remembering something good you have done in the past helps when you are not feeling, when you're losing confidence in yourself. When something is pulling you down, that's the only time remembering how strong you are or how good you are in the past helps to lift you from a tamasic state to a rajasic state. But then ultimately, do good and forget it. So what a beautiful thought the saint had. He said, let me do good and not remember it, without ever knowing it. The angels were greatly perplexed. They took counsel together and resolved upon the following plan. Every time the saint's shadow should fall behind him on either side so that he could not see it, it should have the power to cure disease, soothe pain, and comfort sorrow. So it came to pass when the saint walked along, his shadow thrown on the ground on either side behind him made the arid paths green. Whatever was brown became green, but he would not know it because his shadow. It caused withered plants to bloom, give clear water to dried brooks, fresh color to pale little children, and joy to unhappy mothers. But the saint simply went about his daily life, diffusing virtue as star diffuses light, flower, perfume, without even being aware of it. The people, respecting his humility, followed him silently, never speaking to him about his miracles. Little by little, they even came to forget his name. They only called him the Holy Shadow. One who rises above all desires is always diffusing good spontaneously, naturally, as a flower gives perfume or star diffuses light without being aware of it. So, lots to learn. He gave, he forgave. He wanted to do a lot of good without being aware of it. And secondly, he didn't want to do anything good. He just wanted to live his life. Good automatically happened. So he was the Holy Shadow. One last story. Okay, 66. In India, long ago, Hindus used clay lamps, and when one family got his lamps lit, the people of the adjoining houses would go to their neighbor's house to light theirs. One evening, a maiden who was ardently in love with Krishna went to the house of his father on the pretext of lighting her lamp. So one lady wanted to lamp the lamp, and she went to Krishna's house. She was in love with Krishna. It need not be said that it was in reality a desire to get herself singed like a moth at the sight of Krishna's face that led her to his house, to this house of Krishna, rather than to any other house with lighted lamps. She really went to see him. Lighting of the lamp was only the excuse she gave her mother. She had to apply the wick of her lamp to that of the burning lamp. She had to apply the wick of her lamp to that of the burning lamp. But her eyes were not on the lamps, they were on the face of the dear little Krishna. She was looking at the charming, bewitching face of Krishna. She was looking at him so intently, she did not notice that instead of the wick of her lamp being in contact with the burning lamp, her fingers were burning in it. Her fingers were burning, but she didn't realize what was happening. The flame continued to burn her fingers. She noticed it not. Time passed on. She did not return home. Her mother became impatient and could bear the delay no longer. She went to her neighbor's house and saw her daughter's hand burning, and the daughter unconscious of it. The fingers were burnt and shriveling, and the bones were charred. The mother panted for breath, gasped and wept, cried aloud, "Oh, my child, what are you doing? In the name of goodness, what are you doing?" Then the girl was brought to her senses, or you may say, she was brought from her senses. In such a state of divine love, in this state of perfect love, the beloved and the lover become one. I am he, I am thou. This is the final state, and beyond that comes the state when even these expressions cannot be used. So in the state of divine love, there is no thought of yourself. You're completely in love with the other person. The final stage of love is that in which the lover and the beloved become one. First, we must be unselfish in our relationship. Attachment is selfish love. Then comes a state where there is no thought of I am loving somebody else. You just become love. You're completely thinking of the other person. Beyond that comes a state where is left no sense of love, lover or beloved, which is therefore beyond expression. Next one also is a small one, we'll do it. The true worship of God. sheikh, the worshipper of man. There was a certain sheikh. He was in one of his visions an angel writing the names of people in a book. This is Abu Ben Adam. Loves God. God loves those who love their fellow men. If you worship man, or in other words, if you look upon man not as man but as the divine, if you approach everything as God, as divinity, then worship man, then you worship God. To worship God is the best way to worship the divinity in your friend, the God in your friend. If you find faults in your friends, try and keep yourself away from those faults, but hate not. Hate the sin, not the sinner. They are God, recognize the God in them. '68. Ganipat of Punjab, in his Narangi Ishq, tells us Aziz, the schoolmaster, poor schoolmaster, madly in love with one of his pupils, Shahid. Somebody in Punjab, Ganipat, wrote in a book about a schoolmaster who was in love with one of his students, Shahid. While correcting the calligraphy exercises of his students, the senseless teacher guides himself by the blurred and slurred scribble works of his pupil master, who was just a beginner. Well done, how true. Defects are visible when our eyes are jaundiced with lack of love. So when there is true love, you don't see the mistakes. Intellect sees the mistakes, but you don't hold it against that. When we lack love, we keep on finding mistakes. It's not that you're a fool. Your intellect is alert. You know that, okay, this person has this weakness. This is not right. But with love, you don't hold it against that. You are able to overcome it. Okay, we'll stop here today. Any questions, anyone? We'll stop.
Hariam sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll just end with the prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. Thank you.
Hari Om.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
Dashit.
Hariam sir. Thank you.
Thank you.